Gente, Q&A de julio, New World. Vamos a verlo, Fortune Eternum, es lunes. Estoy muy
Of the
cansado.
time it
Vamos a ver
takes to
todo esto.
accumulate Azoth salt in the game.
More to come.
Yes.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Que sepas que todos estos vídeos están grabados en la plataformita morada. Si no me sigues en la plataformita morada, no sé qué haces que no me estás siguiendo en la plataformita morada. He dicho ya que hago directos en la plataformita morada. Oh, ¿por qué lo dices tanto, Lenny? Eres muy pesado. Pues sígueme en la plataformita morada y no seré tan pesado, crack. Venga, disfruta del vídeo.
Fortune Eternum, where we talk about all things New World. Today I'm here with Dave and Katie, and we're going to do our monthly community Q&A. This is where once a month we take questions from all of our social media networks,
Dura 11
YouTube,
minutos, ¿eh?
Discord,
Qué
Twitter,
rico.
Reddit, and any other one, Threads, probably.
Literally everywhere.
Everywhere we can think of.
Vamos.
So with that in mind, let's just dive in and start answering some questions.
Venga.
Are you happy with how many people attempted the sandworm and beat the sandworm? Will you tune future raid content so that it is more likely to be able to be completed by random groups?
Yes, we are very happy. I think the win rates are, difficult. That's what we wanted. And I think also want to just say thank you for the PTR feedback. I think it helped us tune this. We got a lot of value out of that. And it is balanced to be hard. That's a goal we had. We've achieved that. I think what we're counting on is that in the future, gear score will increase, and that as players get more powerful, that will allow a larger segment of the players to play it. So we want it to be sort of challenging elite content at first and then open up to more players over time.
Yeah, and something pretty
Claro,
cool.
o sea,
like
ahora
we had a
mismo
metric
es
when-
muy difícil, pero en el momento en el que incremente el gear score y la gente se haga más poderosa, no va a ser tan difícil. Yo creo que seguirá siendo difícil por la mecánica, pero de todas formas, mi opinión al respecto de todo esto es que han metido 2 Elite Trials, el cual uno es de 10 y se puede hacer con 600 de equipo. Con un grupo de 5 personas se puede hacer de sobra. Es facilísimo. Es tan fácil que la gente no lo hace, ¿vale? Literalmente la gente no lo hace. Y el otro es tan difícil que la gente no lo quiere hacer, porque no vale la pena por las recompensas que da tampoco. Entonces estamos en un punto en el que habéis metido nuevo contenido que es para un nicho muy concreto de gente, que son básicamente los speedrunners, porque otro tipo de gente que les guste mucho el PvE hardcore sí, pero sigue siendo un nicho pequeño, porque el otro es simplemente gente que quiere hacerlo por decir lo he hecho y ya está, porque por recompensa no renta, y el tiempo que hay que invertir y la gente que hay que conseguir para poder intentarlo, es demasiado. Es demasiado y no renta. Es que no renta ni en tiempo, ni en calidad, ni en cantidad, ni en nada. Entonces, en mi opinión, es un fail completamente los 2 trials que han metido. Mi opinión.
We had the first dub on I forget which world it was on, but we got our first win. It had been attempted over 14,000 times.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool. And since then, we've had a pretty good roll of
So
people.
it was 1 for 14,000?
Yeah, it was a crazy ratio. But since then, we've obviously had a roll of other people who have been able to make it through the sandworm.
Is there any plan for the character rename feature?
Por favor.
It's something that we are talking about, but no plans to share yet with the community.
¿Qué te cuesta poner? Yo qué sé, por 5.000 blasones. ¿Qué te cuesta? ¿Qué te cuesta? Me quiero cambiar el nombre. Es que me quiero cambiar el nombre.
What do you think about adding suggested open world PvP elements such as hot zones and a caravan trading system?
Ojo.
Conceptually, I love it. We've talked about both of those a lot. I think that we're not ready to go into any specifics on how time frames we're thinking about those, but at a high level, like I think both of them, the open world PvP is just, it's fun, it's cool, and if we can find more ways to make that engaging for players and to give them cool things to do, I think it'll pay off.
Yeah, and season 3 is going to bring.
I was going to say the same thing.
It's going to bring a new way that people are going to be able to push influence. So that's going to hopefully bring a lot of open world PvP moments, because we're going to try to get as many folks into certain areas at the same time as possible. So stay tuned for.
Esto es bueno porque el año pasado recuerdo de que les preguntasen cosas en tema de una zona de PvP y era un poco reacio la pregunta, era un poco de sí, bueno, si lo hiciéramos, que no está en los planes, no sería una zona muy específicamente PvP en el sentido de que rentaría mucho ir, pero sí, no sé qué. Y últimamente han ido más hacia esa fase de decir, molaría. Molaría, y además es algo que podríamos hacer No vamos a decirlo, pero lo estamos diciendo. Es decir, casi están confirmando. Y la zona esa blanca de o bien gran grieta o cima quebrada seguramente se convierta en zona PvP Open World.
For more information on
Con
that as we
algo.
start talking about Season 3 and the expansion.
Con algo que
Yeah,
farmear.
it's super cool, but we are going to push, like in the long term, we have plans to push well past that.
Yeah, that's just the first step.
I was just saying, I saw a Reddit thread last night about like, oh my God, pushes take too long.
Yeah.
And this change not only is going to make it way more fun, it's
Yeah.
also going to make it way more compact, which I
Yep.
think players are going to love.
Definitely. It directly, I saw that one too. It directly addresses that. Someday we might be able to talk on Reddit.
La verdad es que los puseos son...
Someday.
We're talking to Reddit
Asquerosos.
right now.
What's up, guys?
Are you aware of the time it takes to accumulate Azoth salt in the game? It feels rather lengthy. Are there plans to increase the Azoth salt awarded from activities? Thank you.
Well, first, you're welcome for, I think we made a great change on the PvP track. I think what's happened here is that there's just so much good stuff now, right? Like we've really buffed
No es
the
que haya
PvP
cosas
reward
buenas, sino
track,
que
and I
cosas
think
que
players
rentan más
want
que
to
antes,
spend
vaya.
more. And we haven't sort of adjusted the salt rates to account for that. So it's something we're looking at. I think players who played for a while, Katie, you were saying you've accumulated,
Like a cap.
for a long time, and I did too. Like there just wasn't enough to spend on. So we were thinking salt was too abundant. But now that there's a lot of good things, we are seeing this more, and it's something we're looking at.
Yeah.
Any plans for fresh start servers this year? They
No,
really
por favor.
helped boost the player
Por favor, que digan que no rotundo, por favor.
population last year.
Yeah, they definitely did. But we have no plans at this
Vale.
point. That doesn't mean that we definitely won't. It just means that at this point it's not something that's on our radar.
Los Fresh Start Servers se cargaron el juego. O sea, se cargaron, dividieron a la comunidad demasiado. De manera que toda esa gente que luego se fue del juego, dejó a los que seguimos dentro del juego prácticamente sin nada que hacer. Tuvimos que, en el momento en que me habilitaron transferencia, menos mal. Porque hay gente que está que no puede hacer nada.
Radar for 2023.
You know, and I think last year they had that
Deberían de
impact because we
Cambiarlos
made
ya.
so many corrections and changes to the game that I think it warranted it. Now we've been doing a lot of changes and a lot of tuning, but I don't think that they've been as substantial, especially in the economy.
Yeah, and part of that is we want to make the Fresh Start experience to feel brand new, like what you're saying. And a good chunk of that is finishing the revamp of the main story quest line. And that will be throughout this year. So if we were going to talk about Fresh Start servers, most likely they would be next year.
Can you explain your point of view on the desire to add
Parece como que no sepan que el juego les queda un mes. O sea, 2 meses les queda de juego prácticamente. Porque en cuando salga la expansión, las monturas y todo eso, todo el contenido prometido que la comunidad pedía estará hecho. En ese momento la comunidad decidirá. O sea, les quedan 2 meses para que el juego renazca o se acabe, literalmente.
seasonal content instead of real definitive content? Because it is not the temporary quests that will attract new players, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think, I consider seasonal content real definitive content. I think it's engaging for the players, and it gives the best thing about seasonal content is the lapsed player can come back and have some engaging content, something to participate in, and it gives you that reason to come back and check in. We're also looking at ways to reuse or to keep seasonal content around longer. So if you remember like season 1, that whole story didn't go away. We actually kept part of it for new players who would come in after the fact, and we're looking at more ways to do that more and more into the future. So I guess my view is I think it's really cool. I personally, as a player, like and appreciate it because it makes the game and my goals change every quarter.
Creo que son demasiado Flanders en ese aspecto. Han metido contenido de Season y prácticamente no hay contenido exclusivo de Season. De decir, aparte de 4 skins que dan en el pase de batalla, no hay ningún contenido que digas, esto solamente lo consigues si has jugado la Season 1 de New World. No había nada así. No había nada. Y eso me parece un fallo gordo. Algo sustancial, algo que sea notorio, que digas que mole, ¿vale? Que digas, si tú quieres esto, ponte a jugar las Seasons, porque si no lo vas a tener y vas a ser, yo que sé, menos exclusivo que la gente que sí lo tenga. Por ejemplo, como el skin esa de los ojos de Isabela cuando metieron la movida esta. Eso estaba guay. Y si mucha gente que lo tiene, yo no lo tengo, en concreto, mira, pues no lo tengo. Y es lo que hay. Hay gente que sí lo tiene y mola. Tenían que haber hecho más cosas así, en mi opinión.
Quarter or so. So I think it's good.
Well, we also have more than just content that's related to seasons too. Like we have real definitive content. Like for instance, in season 2, we had the Sandworm Elite trial come out, and that was a pretty big hit with players. In addition to the seasonal content, which keeps things kind of fresh and new. And as Scott said, we keep part of those quest lines so that people can still get the rewards. They can still get the band together for the Silver Crows. So I understand where this person's coming from, but I think that we have a pretty good mixture, and we're still working on what that fuel mixture looks like, but I think we have a good mixture.
Yeah, and in some cases it even amplifies. Like when the expansion comes out, the reward track is going to be, it's going to amplify everything you do, which I think is, you know, there's a good complement there.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail. Like I love the seasonal content too. I think it's thematic. It sort of provides fun activities, but I think finding a way to get continued value out of that is something we're looking into, and I think something we'll invest in more.
Well, you know, and I didn't even think of this when I first answered, is I love the idea of an overarching story on top of the main story that continues and keeps pushing forward. I think that is also really fun.
Yeah, there's like the whole reason you're on a tournament, and then there's your day-to-day activities in getting the Silver Crows together and helping out other folks in the tournament.
A barbershop feature is on your plans. Can we expect it to be coming next year?
Estaría bien.
It is in our plans. It's something we talk about a lot. So
Y debería haber llegado
right
con el
now,
transmog, la verdad.
we're talking about the Q&A from season 2. Our next communication, like that's kind of forward thinking, is going to be more about the expansion. And then after that, at some point, we'll do a roadmap that goes into a lot more specifics next year. So with that in mind, we are thinking about barbershop, but we're really not ready to talk about it yet.
More to come.
Yes.
I know, it's pretty embarrassing. All right, let's move on.
Can we expect any update to address team imbalances in Outpost Rush and solo arenas in the near future?
So I think, you know, we've seen a lot of OPR matches, especially with Crossworld happening, which has been great just to see the amount of matches dramatically increase and queue times come down. I think that's been great. What we have seen with this also, though, now is a little more polarity in the results. There have been some matches where there are stomps. We're definitely seeing, you know, in terms of heat maps, the spawn camping, in terms of score distribution,
Diría que
some
el
lopsided
80% de las VGs son o te estompean o estompeas. El 80% diría.
We know it's an issue.
Bastante aburrido.
We are starting to look at it. With that said, you know, matchmaking is a huge and complex problem, and it will take us a while to sort of get a solution that we're happy with. But we are aware of it, we're looking into it, and we're beginning to work on it.
But I mean, the data shows that there's a lot more parity than we expected. It's just what happens is you get stomped, and then you remember that a lot more than you remember all the, you know, semi-close matches.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Yo creo
especially,
que
you know, we'll talk more about
básicamente lo que tendrían que hacer es que te detecte que tú vas con un báculo de vida y si tú eres healer, pues que te mezclen entre los dos equipos. Que esté equilibrado en cuanto a healers, porque es lo que más marca la diferencia. Que otro equipo tenga healers o no tenga healers. Es lo que más marca la diferencia. Y luego ya, pues, lo que sea habilidad, vaya.
balance of power. The weapon parity, I think, is very strong. But the match parity, you know, there's some good matches and there are definitely some outliers.
Have you ever thought about reworking the debuff bar? In its current state, it easily gets filled up and is generally hard to read. For example, multiple fortify effects from different sources all show up as separate shield icons. What's the point? Also, things like Berserk cooldown should show up on the weapon icon and not in the buff bar, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is something that we are looking at. I know that also, you know, if you have a lot of con and your HP is really high, sometimes that doesn't show up on your bar. And so it looks like you're not taking damage even when you are. So this is something that we're actively looking at. I don't have an ETA on when things are going to change because that's a pretty complex UX system. But it is something that we're looking at, so stay tuned.
Will there be the addition of the other siege weapons in OPR? Like, will we be able to swap repeaters on outposts for cannons, etc.?
Sí, cañón, eso lo faltaría.
We're thinking about that. No definitive plans. I think we made some changes to the balance of siege weapons in Season 2. I think we're going to continue to look at sort of the impact they're having. And I think that's a good way to shake up the mode a little bit. So, no definitive plans yet, but definitely something we're considering.
Más importantes que no han contestado.
And that is it. Those are all the questions I have here.
Y eso es a lo que me refiero.
Well, thanks for all the questions.
Han contestado preguntas muy pobres cuando propios GMs, propios CMs, perdón, que diga, en el Discord han contestado esas preguntas bastante más importantes. Así que en este aspecto ha quedado bastante pobre lo que es este Q&A, la verdad, en mi opinión. Me han faltado cosas, la verdad.
Keep them coming. There's no community question on the Q&A, so otherwise I'll just say if you like what you saw, subscribe, like, and do all those cool things, and we'll see you.
And see you in Eternum.
And see you in Eternum.
There are some new combos that experts, in quotations, if you know what I mean, are pulling off here with the blunderbuss. Those are things we did not anticipate as a part of the design, and it would not surprise me when you load up the monthly patch if those combos are no longer possible.
Se viene parche PvP, ¿eh? Se viene parche de balance PvP. Eso me interesa. Quiero saber qué van a hacer con eso.